Sport is aflame with issues. Are footballers smarter than they seem? If they are, why do so many get caught up in mindless feuds? Was anyone a match for Sir Alex Ferguson? And is there any doubt Andrea Pirlo is the coolest ever footballer? The world game's hard questions and the no-brainers, here on The Burning Issue. Alex Ferguson had a knack for winning titles and finding confrontation. So what were Fergie's most famous feuds?
And there's nothing wrong with making mistakes as long as you recognise it.
So there's nothing wrong with making mistakes as long as you recognise it, says the former Manchester United guru, Sir Alex Ferguson. But what would Fergie know? After all, he never made a mistake in his life, did he? At least, none that he recognised.
Until Sir Alex gave me a call, asked me to come to his house.
During his 27 years at the helm of United, there was only one way of doing things. The Sir Alex Ferguson way. Those who ventured off that road, be they players, rival managers, rival clubs, billionaire owners, or even a giant media conglomerate like the BBC, all felt the stony stare of Sir Alex Ferguson. And he could be an unforgiving so-and-so when he was right, and an unapologetic coot when he was wrong. Apology? The closest Fergie ever came to apologising for anything was when Ronaldo, you know, the fabulous Brazilian player, complained because Fergie described him as the fat one when comparing him with Cristiano Ronaldo. Ronaldo was furious and said, he should have shown me more respect. It's not something that befits a sir. Fergie's response was to apologise, but only by saying it was a misunderstanding. Really? Come to think of it, he used the same word, a misunderstanding, to describe another feud in which it seemed the stubborn Scot was forced into a backdown. Albeit one in which he benefited to the tune of an estimated £2.5 million.
This is a cup final for me today.
That was the settlement for his misunderstanding with former Manchester United shareholders and former Fergie friends, John Magnier and JP McManus, who gifted him a share in a young racehorse in 2001. That horse turned out to be Rock of Gibraltar, winner of 7 Group 1 races and a syndicated stallion worth an estimated £200 million. Sounds good, right? And yet Fergie's foray into horse racing almost ripped Manchester United apart. That story continues after the break. Sir Alex Ferguson loved his horse racing. And no wonder when his first introduction through 2 Manchester United shareholders and friends was 7-time Group 1 winner Rock of Gibraltar. But when the Rock was retired and put to stud, even though he'd not paid a penny for his share, canny Scott Fergie put his hand out for half of the proceeds from stallion fees. When Magnier and McManus explained he'd only been given a lease for the horse's racing career, he sued them for £110 million. Nothing like 110 mil to split up a friendship. Awkward, given Magnier and McManus were still major shareholders in United. And more awkward when they soon sold their shares to the Glazer family in a deal unpopular with fans. The Rock of Gibraltar split also indirectly led to Fergie's next famous feud with the BBC, when they followed up a story on the shareholder and financial dealings of Manchester United. And when Fergie felt they were disrespectful to he and his son Jason, he refused to talk to them for 7 years. 7 years without the manager of the biggest club in the Premier League doing an interview with an official broadcaster. The BBC, no less. But that's just Fergie. He didn't mind feuding with the club's best player and the darling of the nation, David Beckham, sending him on his way in 2003, a few months after drawing blood, when he kicked a boot across the dressing room and hit his star in the head. He didn't mind feuding with the longtime captain, sending Roy Keane on his way in 2005. And even when he liked the new best player, Wayne Rooney, so much that he didn't want to feud with him, he didn't mind feuding with Rooney's agent, Paul Stretford, instead. Here's what he said about Beckham.
He fell in love with Victoria. That changed everything, I think. And being a football man, that, you know, I had to think about my own control of the club and where we're going with that.
And what he said about Keane.
For one reason or another, he decided to go and criticise his teammates. We decided we had to do something. The meeting in the room was, you know, it was horrendous. You know, and I just couldn't lose my control in this particular situation.
And this on Rooney's situation a few years back.
Some young people today take bad advice, and I think basically I had bad advice. I think that he's an agent. It's, you know, it's, how would you put it, not the most popular man in the world, and certainly not at our club. But he obviously sold it to Wayne to ask away. I think that's what's happened, and he said someone on the sidelines keen to take him, and I think that the boys rushed in.
Of all his feuds, the one which has remained strong is with Keane, fueled in some part by the old Rock of Gibraltar saga. Keane was critical of Fergie in an interview he gave to the club's internal television channel, MUTV.
You can do that. Thank you.
When Fergie heard about it, he demanded the interview never be shown and that Keane be shown the door. The ex-captain is, it seems, as stubborn as the ex-manager.
For Alex Ferguson, not just to criticise myself, but for other players who were part of a team that, you know, brought some good days to lots of supporters, and for him to criticise that when you think of what he made out of it, he made millions of pounds on it, you know. He got his statues, he's got his stand named after him.
We won't bother mentioning all the other players Fergie has fallen out with down the years, except to note that former United player Carlos Tevez may have been a little over the top with his message to Fergie after Manchester City's Premier League title back in 2012. Nor will we dwell on his disputes with other managers, which, to be fair to Fergie, is part and parcel of the game. It's not as if Jose Mourinho or Arsene Wenger or Rafa Benitez don't have lots of feuds running either. And when you last as long as Fergie lasted at a club as large and as successful as Manchester United, well, you wouldn't be doing your job if you didn't upset some people. This, the Ferguson mantra. There's only room at a football club for one boss.
My concern will always be control. My strength has got to be obvious to everyone in the club. And we've had issues with some players over the years, and we've had to make decisions about it. And I know I'm always right, because it is the right way.
There are many different kinds of football feuds. Feuds between great rival clubs. Feuds between fans of great rival nations. But which kinds of feuds do we love seeing the most? The bad blood between Manchester City striker Sergio Aguero and Chelsea defender David Luiz just seemed to get uglier every time they met. It all started back in 2013 in an FA Cup semi-final. And a month later, they even had to be separated in an exhibition match in New York. Fast forward 3 years to December 2016, and this red card for Aguero. At least when they met again a few months later, it seems they made up. There are the messy love triangles, like that of England captain and serial knucklehead John Terry and his once teammate Wayne Bridge. It was alleged in 2010, Terry had been having it on with Bridges' then-girlfriend, French model Vanessa Peroncel. The former England captain took out a super injunction in the High Court to prevent media reporting the rumours, but that only fired them up more. And Bridge showed what he thought of it all when he refused to shake his old mate's hand. Another triangle had trashy beginnings, but ended up like a Hollywood movie. In 2013, it was revealed that Maxi Lopez's wife, Argentine media personality Wanda Nara, was having a fling with his 19-year-old teammate, Mauro Icardi. It was a scandal so deep that Argentine great Diego Maradona, a big fan of Maxi's, weighed in and announced that Icardi is dead to me. Ouch. But the thing is, Nara and Icardi, 6 years her junior, are now married with 5 children, 2 of their own, plus the 3 Nara had with Lopez. Love apparently conquers all. Then there's even the love square. Wolfsburg midfielder Kevin De Bruyne's partner had an affair with his then teammate, Thibaut Courtois, in 2013. But she later claimed it was only after De Bruyne had slept with her best friend. Revenge is best served cold. Man, it's like high school all over again. But then there are those magnificent moments when players from the same team get it on. Come on, you know you love these ones. In 2005, during a game between Newcastle and Aston Villa, in front of a big old home crowd at St James's Park, Lee Bowyer took umbrage with Kieran Dyer for not passing him the ball and started swinging haymakers. Both players were red-carded for the display. As childish as it was, you know you could watch that kind of carry-on all day. Coming up after the break, enough of the angry men. Is David Luiz the happiest defender in football? The defender is supposed to look mean, to quake fear into the opposition at the last line of defence. But with his almost caricatured mop of curls and warm smile, Brazilian David Luiz is an exception to the rule and might just be the happiest defender in football. He has plenty of reasons to be happy too. Luiz joined Chelsea in 2011 and played a part in the Champions League and FA Cup victories the following season, then won the Europa Cup in 2013. In 2014, Luiz was transferred from Chelsea to Paris Saint-Germain for almost 50 million euros, making him the most expensive defender in history. You've got to be happy with that. When Luiz returned to Chelsea in 2016, his Twitter feed showed just what a happy dude he is. I always smile. My decision to come here was the right decision. I'm very, very happy to be here. And that hair of his. A bit of face paint, and he's a shoo-in for a career in clowning once he's done with football. With his success on the European continent, it's easy to understand David's sunny disposition. But it's his track record with Brazil that shows just how happy he really is. In the 2014 World Cup semi-final, Luiz was blamed for 6 of the 7 German goals that went in during their 7-1 belting on home soil, the most embarrassing moment in Brazil's football history. Further to this, Luiz was acting captain after Thiago Silva was suspended before the semi. Anyone who can wear that much heat and still manage a smile, even years down the track, must be delusional, let alone happy. They have a reputation for being thick, but some will surprise you. Are footballers smarter than they look? Recently, criticism over the use of headers in football has ramped up, with fears they cause brain damage. Is it really something we need to be worrying about, though, when footballers have so few brains to protect in the first place? Well, that's the image they've been stuck with anyway. But are footballers actually smarter than they let on? Football and smarts actually go way back. Niels Bohr, the bloke who figured out the fundamentals of quantum physics, you know, that impossibly difficult thing, played several matches for Copenhagen's academic football club back in the early 20th century. In 2009, Chelsea's club doctor, Brian English, conducted neurological tests on the players and found that midfielder Frank Lampard had an IQ of 150. The company Mensa, who compiles the data, declared it was one of the highest they'd ever seen in the general population, let alone football. For reference, Einstein had an IQ of 160, and anything north of 140 is considered genius. And it really shows when you hear Frank, who had 106 England caps in his career, talk about the national team's performance against Wales at the 2012 Euro qualifiers.
I think that was always going to give us a tougher game than expected, and we wasn't moving the ball probably quite quick enough.
Isn't it we weren't moving the ball, Frank? Anyway. Believe it or not, John Terry was in the top 3 of Chelsea's squad on the IQ test. Although, who's to know how much daylight was between him and number 2? For all his brains, Frank couldn't figure out that letting himself feature in a sex tape alongside Rio Ferdinand, Kieran Dyer, and some female fans back in 2000 was a dumb idea. Frank was in his early 20s, so let's cut him some slack. And he did wise up enough to win the heart of TV presenter Christine Bleakley. Smart move, Frank. As just a 17-year-old pup, Belgian powerhouse Romelu Lukaku was picked up by Chelsea for 15 million euros. That takes some serious maturity, which might have been honed through the discipline of speaking 6 languages. Apart from his native Dutch and French, he's fluent in English, Portuguese, Spanish, and a Congolese Swahili dialect. Now, that's just showing off. While his impact with Chelsea was modest, he was smart enough to accept an offer to be loaned to West Brom in 2012, where the floodgates opened. He scored nearly every other game that season, and did the same when loaned to Everton in 2013-14. And listen to the way he spoke about being subsequently signed to Everton in 2014, still as a kid in his early 20s.
I had the feeling that it was for me the best place to grow and to develop as a young man and as a footballer.
If only Lampard had Lukaku in his ear when he was a young moron genius.
Yeah, there you go.
But the best case of secret smarts has to be this handsome fellow, Ian Dowie. Dowie scored 12 goals and gained 59 caps for Northern Ireland, played for a raft of Premier League clubs, became Hull City's manager in 2010, and works as a commentator for Sky Sports. Quite an achiever. Dowie also once worked for British Aerospace and has a master's in engineering. Yep, that's right. He is a rocket scientist. This guy. Well, perhaps it is time we gave the image of the brainless buffoon footballer a rethink. He's got flair on the ground and flair upstairs. Neymar knows how to let his hair down. We are blessed in the modern era to have Brazilian maestro Neymar gracing the pitch. He's truly one of those rare natural talents whose intuition for the game produces the most versatile brilliance. And fittingly, Neymar rocks his hair similarly in a melange of styles. There's been the forward brush, the flopped mohawk, the traditional mohawk, the frosted mohawk. There's been the peroxide look. He's a real man apart with that one. There's the peroxide short back and sides, here while meeting Arnold Schwarzenegger. It got Arnie pretty excited too.
To me, my favorite sport is still soccer and bodybuilding, of course. But now the great thing is that the soccer players are all doing bodybuilding also, and they're working out with weights in order to get in better shape. So that's fantastic.
While Neymar is a genius, and he certainly has big hair, surely he's not talking about him with the bodybuilding. Arnie probably uses weights heavier than Neymar for bicep curls. Anyway, his hair. When he was younger, it was completely wild. And he's even had a crack at a bit of facial fluff. But every now and then we see Neymar going au natural. Here, there's at least a bit of style to it. But then, he ventures into full natural. After having seen him with such flamboyance, natural looks like he just rolled out of bed. Neymar, this is an issue. While your natural flair with the ball is a thing of beauty, the flair with your hair is better with frost and gel, pal. Make an effort. Still to come, you'll be hard-pressed to find anyone cooler than football's Mozart, Andrea Pirlo.
Ciao, sono Andrea Pirlo.
Ah, yes, Andrea Pirlo. Watching him here, relaxed and dripping in charisma, at his Brescia vineyard in northern Italy, it's easy to see why the midfielder was never known for his work rate, nor for his pace, physicality, nor for his tackling. No, Pirlo would never waste energy on that rubbish. He came to be known as Mozart for his uncanny ability to conduct the field of play, the professor, in that he conjures opportunities like an alchemist, and the metronome for setting the rhythm of an entire match. He does this because he's quite simply the coolest footballer ever to step onto a pitch. We're talking the rugged, effortless, Samuel L. Jackson-esque kind of cool you wish you could bottle. For one, he actually looks like a brunette Chuck Norris, except way more handsome. Seriously, have a look at him. He could be perched up on a ridge in a western with a shotgun and a cowboy hat and look completely comfortable. And his career is outstanding. Former Italy coach Marcello Lippi once said, "Pirlo is a silent leader. He speaks with his feet." During the 10 years Pirlo played for Milan between 2001 and 2011, he claimed 2 Serie A titles. Then, when he turned 31 and Milan deemed he was getting long in the tooth, the club decided not to renew his contract. Unfazed, the midfielder transferred to Juventus and picked up 4 more titles. Later, Milan CEO Adriano Galliani admitted, "Letting Pirlo go was my biggest mistake ever." Yep, never doubt a man this cool, Adriano. Pirlo certainly never did, as shown in the way he describes himself in his autobiography. If I look in the mirror, I see a man of average ugliness, who's completely happy with the figure staring back at him. Pirlo chilled to such a sublime temperature that in 2017, a pair of Harlem Globetrotters decided he was the man to impress.
Check this out.
Now, this is Andrea Pirlo.
Roll it to me.
You know, the footballer. And you're using your feet? Fool.
This was impressive.
There you go. That's more like it.
You got a little bit right there. That's a little bit.
But if you really want to impress a guy as cool as Pirlo, you gotta bring out the big guns.
Not bad.
An endorsement like that, you know it's genuine, because Pirlo is the coolest, no question.
You cannot be serious!